with Rosalind Peterson of CaliforniaSkywatch.com, and that was the caller I was talking about earlier, and I just feel like there's not going to be much to convince that guy. I mean, I find it very hard to believe that the teams of 3 or 4 planes that I've seen spraying the skies are just waiting to land. I mean, for instance, I've traveled across the country by car a few times now from California to New York, and I remember being in Oklahoma and, just driving through that state and just watching, 4 separate planes spraying the area. And it was obvious they weren't waiting to land. It was obvious that they had some kind of a mission to put these things into the sky.
Oh, I can completely. I've seen 20 trails, just lined up one behind the other, and jets flying in very close tandems, doing loops around the horizon over and over and over again, just covering the sky. But I also think that what most people don't understand is, like MIT Professor Emmanuel has talked about having jets on the West Coast leave carbon black trails, which would create perturbances or disturbances in the atmosphere from the heat generated from the carbon black, which would start weather fronts moving across the United States to try and deflect hurricanes off the coast on the east side of the country. Mm-hmm. And this has been talked about quite a bit, and we see these black contrails here. In addition, it's very strange that we have hours and hours of tape showing one side of a jet leaving one type of plume, and the other side of the jet, same jet, leaving a different type of plume. So you could have a plume that was dissipating quickly on one side, trailing behind the jet, and a totally different type of plume on the other side that turns into a different kind of formation. And when we had a meeting of the climate committee here of the EPA in California, Professor Rosenfeld came from Australia, and he talked about the fact that most of the clouds we see today are man-made. They're not normal clouds. And that struck me when he said that back in 2003. That was quite a surprising statement to me. Mm-hmm. So, because I was early in my research at that time. But that's what we have been hearing and seeing from some of the research and some of the studies.
All right, let's go to one final caller. Remember, the website is CaliforniaSkywatch.com, and it really, lays it all out. It's the best site on chemtrail, comtrail phenomenon. Let's go to Stephen in Texas. Stephen, you're on the line.
Yeah, good evening, Jason, and thank you, Rosalind, for being on. I appreciate all the work that you've done. I've been doing a lot of thinking with everything you folks have been discussing tonight. And, Jason, I wanted to tie in what I'm going to say with last night's show, mm-hmm. where you spoke with Len Horowitz. Based on all the research you and Alex have done, we know that the end game of everything the globalists are doing is eugenics to kill the population as part of their God trip because they mm-hmm. get a kick out of this. Mm-hmm. Okay, now tying this into, you were talking about the chemtrails. You mentioned NASA. Well, just on a whim, I thought back, Alex in the past has interviewed the gentleman who has a website, and I encourage everybody to go to this, including the last guy that was on debating this, called moonmovie.com, mm-hmm. where he proves that this is one of the biggest hoaxes that's ever been foisted on America, the moon landing. Now, this is NASA that's behind this, tied in with the NSA and all the monitoring of us, and I believe, based on the evidence, what NASA has really been doing, sending these satellites up, etc., is to spy on us, but also on his site, he's got NASA TV on moonmovie.com. And they have a whole pitch there off of NASA TV for one of the other biggest hoaxes that now, what you're talking about, and this all ties together, NASA is also hooked in with, which is global warming, which we know is a total fraud. And he says on this NASA TV...
Hold on, Steve, because we only got one minute left. I want to get her closing thoughts on, NASA and their global warming stance. Basically, why is it that NASA is the one with these programs that are supposedly hindering or stopping global warming? When did that start? When did NASA come into the global warming business, Rosalind?
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any concrete date, like that on day one on this year they started, but they did get into discussions at some point, and they have been. NASA Ames actually has been looking into this, and the Air Force has been looking into, in other words, this global warming type thing. But then they don't tell you, and they don't come out and give press releases that their studies are finding that the jets are exacerbating.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold for your IRA? The financial industry refuses to recognize the value of real hard assets for your retirement. The truth be told, gold and silver has outperformed paper investments like stocks, bonds, and CDs, yet no word about IRAs. Perhaps the financial institutions want to maintain control of your assets by keeping you in paper. If you'd like to take a look at gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low return on your paper investments. Call 800-686-2237. Make sure that you secure your future. Call 800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.